Hello everybody. Bertie here with Redbyrd Designs, and I'm just doing a quick live to talk about these new lighted snow globe kits that we are going to be posting, and we are going to have them at our local craft events. This is how the kit will come, and so I just kind of wanted to show you what you all get, what you need, and kind of how to put it together. I'm going to be painting the barn, which is kind of a jumble, but wanted to show you what you get. So this is the kit, and let's just open it up and show you what you get, because it looks a little bit different than this here. Let me find something to open this with. Oh, here are my scissors. So we are going to be in Circle for the craft show there on November 2nd. And then hopefully we are going to be in Funnywood November, what's the date? Let me get my calendar out. I don't quote dates wrong here. Funnywood possibly November 8th. We're still looking into that one. So that's tentative, but Circle, yes, November 2nd. Glasgow at the Civic Center, November 22nd, and then Poplar, November 29th. And so we'll have these kits, and then also a few other kits, and our ornament bar, which we had last year, super popular, super fun for some family activities, which I think these will be too, just a little different craft and things like that. So for the lighted snow globe kit, you'll get the instructions, kind of talks about what you get, some different ways to paint, sort your pieces, how to assemble. It shows you a little picture of all the pieces that you get. And the reason that I'm doing this is because, here I'll show you in just a second, when it comes off the laser, we are keeping all of the inside pieces here. So this is cut like this on the laser, and I'm using tape to hold all of the important pieces together. It also has the voids or the excess, and that helps keep the pieces from breaking and shuffling around. So this little guide will help you determine exactly what pieces in this that you'll need, so you don't get confused if you need, sometimes, like, let's say this little piece right here is going to come with it, but you don't need it. Let me flip it over here. Whoops. You need the door, but you don't need any of these window pieces, and they might just come with it, just depending on how I pull it off the laser. And so I thought that would be important to have this. But what you'll do is you're going to remove the masking tape and just pop out all the pieces that you need and set them aside, and then you can toss the excess away. So this, let's just start with your backer. This is the backer that we will bring the light through. And then we have the ring that sits here. This allows us to run those wires for the lights. And then the front piece here, this has got score marks to show you where everything should go. And then this has all of your little bits and pieces. You'll also have possibly a second block that has the bottom of the snow globe. It might have like the snowy piece, and it might have a few others. They're all a little different in pieces, so you might have like a second piece that sits on top, and then you'll have your stand here for keeping it upright. And the inner piece here has the little slot that when it's all put together, that goes into the stand, so you can display your piece. So that is how it comes. You'll get 6 pots of paint, a light, fairy light string, 2 makeup wedges, a flat brush and a liner brush, a pot of glue, and a little a Velcro dot. And this is to attach that um, light strand to the back of your piece. So give me just a second. I want to go grab the one of the finished products, and then we will get started painting this one. So I'm going to give you a little sneak peek at all the different designs we have. I did not create these designs. I did not create these designs. I did purchase them from a designer on Etsy. Her name's Chris Howard. She does beautiful work. And when I saw these, I thought they were just awesome and so much fun. So the one I've been showing sneak peeks of has been the Happy Holiday Home one. And like I said, it lights up. Isn't that so fun? And these are about, I think they stand about 6 inches tall, a little bit over 6 inches tall with the stand. But we also have the truck that lights up. We have this super cute snowman. And so we'll have a handful of each design at all of our craft shows. So if you have a favorite, get there soon. I can't imagine they will last long. These are so fun. All is calm, all is bright. The winter forest, night forest, the warm winter wishes, the snowman, merry and bright tree. Have yourself a Merry Christmas with the Christmas tree and presents, and then Gnome for Christmas, which is super cute. I get the light on that one. Oh, come let us adore him, the manger nativity scene, and then In the Magic of Christmas with the Believe. So we have one more that we're going to paint today together. Let's get started. All right, so this one is a barn, and we've got our paint colors here. Like I said, this is kind of a jumbled mess because it is the example. Make sure I got all my pieces. So what we want to do first off, excuse me, is you can use the masking tape that comes in the kit if you're able to save it when you peel it away to pop your pieces off. Or if you have masking tape at home, that works great. But I like to use masking tape to hold all these tiny pieces down. I use the sticky side up. I press my pieces into those. Let me flip my bow around. I've got my 3 snowflakes. And I try and keep things that are going to be the same color together so they're easier to paint. Then I'm not worrying about getting paint on a piece that shouldn't have that color. And then like this, sometimes you might get these inner pieces of the door that come just with it, or maybe they just didn't pop out on the laser. You just take your fingernail and pop those out, and you can toss those excess pieces away. Your picture will show you if you need those inside pieces or not, but I'm letting you know you don't. Here's that inner ring. We do not need to paint that, so I'm going to put that aside. And then the backer piece, we do not paint, so I'm going to put that aside. And that's really it. I will actually tape down my door and my roof. So it has a little door here. It's got the roof piece. And then these pieces I can paint without tape. So that's that. So I'm going to start by painting the background here. And I'm going to use this light blue and the large flat brush. Or you can use the makeup wedge. You have 2 makeup wedges. I reserve these usually for these smaller pieces because I like to do the tap method. So I'm just going to get my brush in here and start painting. The key with wood pieces like this is to paint in light coats and do multiple light coats. I even add just a little bit of water to my brush because that helps that paint flow a little bit better. Wood is super porous and wants to soak that paint up, so I try and help it along a little bit. Now the score marks show you where those pieces, like the barn, is going to be placed. So you don't really have to paint the entire backer piece, because this is going to sit here and you're not going to see that anyways. The other thing is when you're painting your pieces, you want to make sure that you don't get a bunch of paint down into those holes. So kind of, I'm just being super careful around those holes not to brush too hard and push a bunch of paint down in those little openings. If you get paint down in those openings, so you can kind of just stick even a Q-tip or the tip of a skewer or something down in there and kind of clean those out just to make sure that those holes don't get clogged with paint and make it hard to see the lights. Okay, so I'm going to leave that open. We're going to go on to the red next and paint our barn. And we'll get this barn painted. Okay, so one thing to note here that I kind of forgot, I'm just going to let you know that there is score marks on the barn to show you where to place the wreath and the door and the trees. So if you wanted a different color under the door, keep that in mind. In that little box, you could paint that, brown or black or something. So for this little bow, I'm just going to lightly use my brush and just kind of tap on top. I don't want to get too heavy with this, otherwise it will fill in the bow lines, and I want to see those to help with outlining that bow. And I don't want to paint the edges, so I'm keeping it clean. I'm keeping those edges nice and dark. And there we go. All right. I could have used a makeup wedge for that, but I'm going to hold off on using my makeup wedge for my green and my white. So makeup wedge, and you can cut these again, or you could cut these in half. So what I would do is maybe just cut this like this, and you could use it for 2 applicators. And I'm just going to stick this right into my pot and squeegee off the side. So I don't want too much paint on my top here. Otherwise it tends to be a messy applicator. And then I'm just going to tap, tap, tap on top of my snowflakes here. Again, dip that in, squeegee off the excess. We don't need too much paint for these little snowflakes. We're going to tap, 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 tap. And I'm going to set that aside. Actually, I'm going to set that aside. Then I'm going to do green for my trees and that wreath, and I'm going to use that other half of the makeup wedge, dip it in, squeegee it off the side, and tap, tap, tap. Now these kits come with the 6 colors or 5 colors depending on the kit that we use to paint these, but you could definitely introduce new colors if you have paint at home. You don't necessarily have to paint with our colors. We just wanted to create a complete kit for those who might not have paint at home. So, oh, I know what I was going to do with white, my snow. So this little piece sits at the bottom of the barn, and this is a snowdrift. So I'm going to use that makeup wedge to paint that as well. Ever since I started creating kits for people, and started using makeup wedges for painting tiny pieces, I find that I use it for a lot of the crafts I do. It's very rare that I'll reach out to a and grab a brush unless I need some detail or something. Alright, so then I've got a dark brown here, and I'm actually going to use a baby wipe for this to create a faux stain look. If you don't have a baby wipe, you could use a damp paper towel. It's got to be pretty hefty paper towel though, or an old damp rag. But I dip it in the paint, and then I'm just going to rub it on this base here. So this bottom piece is going to be covered up, and then this piece is covered up with this little scallop area. And so I'm just going to hit that middle area. And it's okay if I go over the lines because it's going to be covered up right there. Okay. The next thing I want brown is my door and my roof. So again, I'm going to use that faux stained look so it looks like actual wood trim. Wood door. I'm also going to stain my stand that it sits on wood, just to give it some color. You could paint it as well if you wanted to. But I'm going to just do this and have it match my base a little bit. And there we go. All right, so now we're left with these two pieces, and I want them to be more of a creamy color, not necessarily a white, because my stand is brown. I kind of want it to match a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this palette I have here with my brush. I'm going to take some white out. There we go. And then I'm going to take just a little bit of brown out and kind of mix that together to create kind of a creamy white. So a little bit off-white. And then I am going to grab my makeup wedge. I don't want to use my white one because I still have to go over my snow and my snowflakes again. So I'm going to grab up that creamy color and just tap, tap, tap. And you can use a brush for the scalloped edges, but I'm going to need a little bit more. It's starting to dry out on me. You can use a brush for the scallop pieces, but I like to use a makeup wedge for the band that has the letters, because I don't want a bunch of paint in those scored letters so they stand out really well. If you use a brush on that, it tends to fill those letters up and then they're really hard to see. You can scrape it out with a needle or a safety pin of some sort, any kind of pokey, sharp device you might have. So if you get like paint down in those letters, you can take, do I have a needle on hand? I do. Let's say you just have like a needle, you can just come in there and kind of scrape it out just to make those nice and vibrant and dark so you can really see them and they don't get hidden. So that's why I use the baby or the makeup wedge for this piece, because of that. But for the scalloped edge, you can use a brush. You can go a little bit faster that way. And when you're mixing colors, you want to make sure that you're mixing enough for a second coat. And sometimes that isn't always possible because the acrylic dries so fast. But if it doesn't match exactly, that's okay. As long as you get that base coat on and it looks good, you're good to go. So I got a little paint in this little hole, so I'm going to dig that out. Kind of clean those holes out. Using a brush, that kind of can happen, so just keep your eye on it. No lights come through those, but I do like them to just look a little cleaned up there. So now we're going to go on to our second step. And before that, I'm going to give everything just a light sanding to smooth everything out. And then we're going to come back to our first color, which was this blue. So we're going to get that painted. A little water on our brush helps that flow. And you can start to see that that color really starts to become vibrant with that second coat. And that looks good. So then I'm going to go on to my red. All right, and then we're going to do our white. Our second coat on our snowflakes. And then a second coat on our snowdrift. Because I want this to look like it's old wood or stained wood, I'm not going to put a second coat on that because I like how that looks, where I kind of see that wood grain poking through, so I'm good with that. I'm also not going to put a second coat on my base or my slotted stand or my base. So now I'm going to do these pieces, put a second coat on those. And this is where I mixed those colors to create kind of a creamy white. So I'm going to create another little batch of that. I'll get some white out. I've already got the brown. It's a very small change in this color. It's just a nice soft white, which I think is going to be a nice contrast to the snow that we have. Kind of give it something a little different. Then let's do our green. So all my pieces have been painted twice. Now I'm ready to put it together or do some details. And what I like to do along here is create kind of a glow look. So I am going to grab the makeup wedge that I have white. I'm going to dip it more into the white, just kind of set it there. And then what I want to do is I'm going to bring out some blue on my palette. And I am going to mix the two colors right on my makeup wedge. I'm just going to add a little bit of paint to the edge here. Having some damp paint will help make that flow a little bit better. So I've got half white, half blue. We'll just kind of squish that around, and then I am going to just come out here, drag that along the edge, and create kind of a glow. Now if it gets a little too harsh of a line like that, you can take that makeup wedge and add some more blue to it. I'm just going to take my brush, because the paint is still wet, and kind of just blend it out. Soften up that line with my brush. And there we go. It creates a soft, glowy sky. Okay, I'm done with, oh no, I'm not done with the blue. One more thing with the blue. Because this makeup wedge has white and blue on it, Now I'm going to go the opposite. I want to bring some blue onto the edge of my snow here for a little bit of some shadow work and some texture. Just dragging that blue side of my makeup wedge. Again, it's got the white and the blue. And you can really do a lot of fun kind of ombre looks with any of the paint that you have. And you can use the makeup wedge or a brush. Okay, I think I'm good there. Let's see, those are ready. That's done. I'm going to grab that baby wipe that I have the brown on, and I'm going to distress my tab here by just dragging that around the edge just to give it a little bit of a worn, distressed look. This is totally optional. If you get too much, just take your baby wipe or rag and wipe away the excess. Then I'm going to do that with the barn as well, just to give it a little something on the edges here. Maybe around the door, drag some of that around that. So just a little scratching of some brown on the barn. It comes with a glue pot like this. And once you're done painting, you can use one of your brushes as a tool for applying the glue. And a little glue goes a long way, so you don't need to paint the entire back piece. Just hit like the four corners of it to get a good adhesion, but don't feel like you necessarily have to really apply glue to every surface. And then I like to turn it around and make sure that I've got my piece on right. So I think what happened is, I think I painted the wrong side of this. I did. So let me show you how to fix that. I painted the wrong side of my snow. I didn't double check and lay it out like I should have. So I'm going to pop it off and I'm going to wipe that glue, and then I'm going to grab my white and give it a quick coat. No harm, easy fix. Just before it sets up with glue, pop it off, flip it over, and repaint it. So we'll let that dry here for just a second. Okay. While that's drying, I can add the pieces to my barn though. The glue that comes with your kit is an all-purpose glue, and it does dry clear. So if you do have any bits that kind of squirt out, you can see I have some glue that you can kind of see around there. I know it's going to dry clear, so I'm not going to be too concerned with it. If you do have, bigger lumps and clumps that are, showing up, you might want to take a rag or a baby wipe to try and get those wiped away. I should probably wait on the trees because they are going to hang down into the snow. So let's just double check this snow here. I can put the bow on. And we'll go on the top. And the bow can go on the top of the wreath or the bottom of the wreath. Now, most of the kits come with snowflakes, and there are some kits that show you where to place the snowflakes, and then the others are just wherever you want. So I know that one snowflake goes right here where the score mark is, so I'll place it there, but the other two I can place wherever I want. I'm going to put one on the other side of the barn just to keep it kind of consistent here. Just make sure that you're not putting it over on a hole. I'll just stick it right up there. The other thing when you're ready to glue is you just want to make sure everything's good and dry. If you try to glue things together where the piece is still wet, your glue won't adhere very well and it will cause issues. So there it is, all finished. Let's add some snowflakes. I'm going to use the back of my brush, dip it in the white paint, and just do a couple dots for a little more snowflake. There we go. And let's put some red berries on the wreath. So I'm going to open my red using the back of my brush. I'll just do a couple dots here. There we go. Okay, and one last thing I like to do is add a little bit of splatter. And to do that, I'm going to use an old toothbrush. So if you have an old toothbrush laying around, this is the perfect tool for that. I get it a little wet. Then we're going to grab some of that white paint. I kind of try and get it on all my bristles here like that. And then I'm just going to flick it with my thumb, hold it like this, and then point it straight at the piece and start flicking my thumb, pulling those bristles back. And we get this really pretty snowy effect. Okay, all done with the painting process. Now we're ready to put this all together and attach our lights. So let me get everything put away here. And so then once everything is dry, you want to make sure that all of your bits are dry. So when we flip it over, we don't, nothing shifts on us while we apply the glue and the inner piece. So I like to apply the inner piece next to the back of the front frame, just because I don't want to accidentally put my lights where that frame might be. So this helps with that. It ensures that we're not accidentally putting those wires where this has to be, and then we have to go back and redo it. So we lightly put a coat on there, and then I just go around and make sure everything is straight. Make sure my hands are not gonna cause issues up front here. I like to just run my finger along the edge and make sure that everything is in line, top to bottom, side to side. Giving it a good squeeze. The glue that comes in the kit, like I said, is an all-purpose glue. It dries fairly fast. You can use a rag to wipe any away where you have pieces squeezing out. And then I have these handy clamps that I like to use. I'm just gonna throw those on while we work on the lights. So we're gonna let it sit like this for a second and do the lights. So the lights come with this little tab. You've got to pull that out. I like to test them. I'll make sure they're working. And then I unravel them. And try and not create really strong kinks in the wire if possible. So there's a lot of excess here. Lights. So a couple different ways that you can do this. You could literally just kind of look at where your openings are. Every kit's going to be different on where your holes are. And you could just kind of glue or tape them in place, get them close, and use the entire string. If I kind of wired it or wrap it back around like this, you can just kind of do that, tape it down, and you'll still see the lights come through. This little guy has to come out the side like this, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. But you could do that and start taping it down, and that's how you can do it. The way I like to do it, and I think it looks super good, is to put a little bulb in each opening. And so that's what I'm going to do. And depending on the kit you have, you kind of want to have a game plan in place before you start. So I like to put this guy right here because I know he's coming out of this opening. So let me just show you that real quick so you have an idea. This is going to sit here. This little guy comes out and he gets Velcroed to the back like this. So again, I like to have him sitting right here, and then I work my way up and kind of around and zigzag around up here. Now this first bulb actually reaches my first opening right here, but if it didn't, I would just let that go and go on to the next one, because some of the lights sit higher up, and because this has to be down here, that first bulb is kind of in a dead zone, and that's okay. Just go to that second bulb so that you can get it to that opening. I think the like this one sits a little bit higher. You can see that we start further up. So if I'm looking at the back, you know, this kind of, there's a dead bulb here that kind of is sitting in a spot that it's not shining, and that's okay. I think that's it. The Christmas tree uses a lot of bulbs, and so there's a lot of weaving and a lot of just kind of playing around with that wire to get your lights where you want them. This one uses, you know, I started here and kind of just weaved my way around. So you kind of just want to think about your game plan. This length of wire is more than what you need, except for the tree. The tree uses every bulb on the strand. Every other kit, you can cut the excess off if you want. And also have this dead one here. So I'm going to do that just to kind of show you what I mean by that. And I've got my glue gun plugged in, and I'm using one of these finger guards. You can get these at any craft store, but they're really helpful. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little tiny dab of hot glue next to my light, or next to the hole, and then I'm going to place that bulb right next to it and kind of hold that wire down. So I'm not putting glue in the hole, just next to it, and then it's going to catch that wire. So now that wire's secure right here next, and that bulb is going to be right in that opening. Here's my first bulb. This is my second bulb. So now I'm going to go onto this. You can see I have a lot of extra wire here. So I just wrap it around and kind of create a loop. You can do it however you want. This stuff is pretty flexible, so you just want to be careful not to create too strong of a kink that could possibly break the wire. And there we go. So now I've got that second bulb here. My next opening's there. So again, finding that next bulb, kind of looping that wire to help that piece, that bulb, sit where I want it to. Once I get it kind of where I want, I'm going to come in with a little dab of that hot glue. Press on it, let it set up. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to continue on creating loops, getting those little light bulbs right in that opening, and using this glue gun to secure it. If you don't have a glue gun, you could use small pieces of tape or you can't really use like an all-purpose glue because it's not going to set up to hold the wire. Trying to think what other glue you could use. You could possibly try a tacky glue, but I don't think it's going to dry fast enough. You would have to sit here and hold each wire forever, and I don't think that's very fun. So I would try and use a glue gun or tape. Now I'm only gluing it on one side of the hole. If you're having a hard time getting your wires to lay flat next to a hole, you can glue on both sides, but I found that once I get the backer on, they kind of fall into place anyways. So, you know, I'm only going on the right side of the hole and letting the wire just kind of stick out a little bit there. So right now the plan with these is to just have them at our craft show. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to list them on our online website, but if you're watching this video and you're not able to make it to a craft show and still want to get one, put it in the comments and let me know. If I get enough interest, I'll list them online to be able to purchase them through our website. Okay, last one here. Okay, so I have a bulb in all the holes, and I have quite a bit of this wire left over. And what you could do is you could just you know, get it kind of positioned where you want it and stick it in there, close it up, and be done with it. But the fun thing with this wire is I can cut this excess off, and it's still going to work. So I'll show you, test it. So here's that dead one. Because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't stretching the battery pack too far, I started at that second, worked my way around, and then I cut off all this extra, which is totally normal, or you can pack it in and keep it on there. Okay, this glue is set up. Now we're ready for the second to last stage, I guess. So we're going to get the glue. Get my brush. And we're going to apply some glue to the edge of this frame. This inner sandwich piece here. So right here where this wire is coming out, I'm not going to apply any glue there. I kind of go around it there. There we go. And then we will attach this, line it up all the way around just like we did before. Wipe away any excess glue. All right, then once we've got that set, we can attach our battery pack to the back using the included Velcro dots. It's a set, so it's got the both pieces that you need. Peel away one side, attach it to the battery pack, peel away that backer from the other side, and attach it here. You could possibly glue this battery pack on, but if you ever wanted to change the batteries on it, that would be kind of a pain. So that's why we have the Velcro. It allows you to adjust that if you need to. Okay. And then the last step that I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some glue to the tab down here at the bottom. On both sides. There we go. And then I am going to slot it into my stand here. Give it a press. And voila, all done. So that is our snow globe kit. We can remove these now. And there we go. Here is the cute little barn. I hope you enjoyed making these lighted snowballs. I just think they're the cutest thing, and I'm super excited to offer them, and hope you enjoyed them. Happy crafting, and thanks for watching, guys. Bye.